Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Gwen Jacobsen, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 117, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying our NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. So this week's edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press is dated Friday, November the 5th, 2021. And there's a big picture on the front, Hope Scares Away Hunger, by Kira Patterson. The Neepawa Area Collegiate NACI social justice group called Hope took part in their annual Halloween food drive called Scare Away Hunger, with a record amount of food collected. It was our best yet for Hope, shared NACI teacher and Hope liaison Michelle Young. The group collected just over 4,100 pounds on Halloween, but more donations continued to show up at the Salvation Army Food Bank at Neepawa Community Ministries Center in the days following. As of Tuesday, November the 2nd, a total of 4,359 pounds of food donations were brought in for Scare Away Hunger. This year's total beat last year by several hundred pounds, with the 2020 drive bringing in 3,831 pounds in total. Shout out to the Rotary Club for supplying the bags for the food drive, to the Hope members for all their efforts in getting the bags into the community and for collecting all the food, and a shout out to our community for the amazing support for the Salvation Army / Neepawa Community Ministries and the people in need, Young expressed. And here's a really nice picture of 3 of the NACI Hope members, Gina Dowd, Cordelia Smith, and Brooke Allen. They were among the many volunteers who helped collect the thousands of pounds of food. Now we have a new Premier of Manitoba. Heather Steffensen sworn in as the 24th Premier of Manitoba. Heather Steffensen has been sworn in as Manitoba's new Premier, making her the first female to hold the position in the province's history. I stand before you today as Manitoba's 24th Premier. This was something that was once unthinkable, said Steffensen. And while I may be the first woman to hold this office, I take this oath confident in the knowledge that I will not be the last. And it goes on to say, Heather Steffensen won the PC party leadership and therefore the position of Premier on Saturday, October the 30th. She defeated former MP Shelley Glover by 363 votes. Due to the close vote count and concerns that a contingent did not receive ballots, Glover has filed a court challenge against the results. As for Steffensen, she was first elected to the Manitoba legislature in a 2000 by-election in the Winnipeg riding of Tuxedo. She has previously served on several portfolios, including Justice, Families, and Health. As well, she was named Deputy Premier in 2016. Local Athletes Throw Down for Noof by Owen Devereaux. Every once in a while, you need that little extra bit of motivation to power through that one last rep at the gym. On Saturday, October 30th, about 35 participants in the Friendly Throwdown fundraiser at Whitey's Fitness Body Shop had one of the greatest motivations of all, the chance to help a family in need. The event, named the Friendly Throwdown, saw participants complete in 3 separate workout routines that lasted about 10 minutes each. The workouts were scheduled in a track meet structure and designed with 2 divisions, fun and intermediate. Each athlete involved paid a $40 entry fee to take part, with 100% of those proceeds donated to Dylan Neufeld and his family. Dylan has been diagnosed with angioimmunoblastic T-cell lymphoma. The money raised will assist with coverage of travel expenses and medication requirements accumulated during his treatment. Whitney's Fitness Body Shop owner and operator Sherry Hawkins said this type of scheduled fundraiser was one of the most ambitious events they have ever attempted. This was our first ever attempt at something so ambitious, and I think it probably far exceeded our expectations. The way the day flowed was pretty unreal. We spent a ton of time planning for this, indicated Hawkins. We have done some fundraisers in the past where it might be just a workout fundraiser, but this was a first for us. Organizing divisions, event and heat schedules where you would have a heat every 10 minutes with a 5-minute window between. But our volunteers and coaches and the staff at Whitey's just did a tremendous job on this. It was a huge team effort. Hawkins stated that there were at least a half-dozen people at Whitey's on Friday night helping to prepare the gym for what was to occur the next day. She said their support in the prep work was invaluable. We had people move and organize the equipment. We had some people bringing in equipment for us to use for the event, extra medicine balls and 20-pound dumbbells, for example. My mother did a ton of work as well, Gail. She actually was our heat stager for the day, making sure everything was able to flow. And then my coaches, Daryl Gerard and Shayna Fluker, were a big part of the day, as well as my administrative staff, Andrea Wilson. We had other athletes that doubled as judges or helped with check-in. Hawkins concluded by saying that though everyone is a bit exhausted from the experience, they are still very honored to be able to assist. The final results of the event were not available before the Banner and Press publication deadline, but will appear in a future edition of the newspaper. PC Manitoba holds leadership contest by Ken Waddell. The PC Manitoba leadership election was held October the 30th in Winnipeg. Voting problems and considerable disagreement marred the otherwise historic occasion of electing Manitoba's first woman premier, Heather Steffensen. At the end of the mini-convention, the election results were announced with 16,456 votes cast, 82 spoiled ballots, 17 disputed, 8,405 cast for Heather Steffensen, and 8,042 for Shelley Glover. Steffensen was sworn in as premier on Tuesday afternoon. Meanwhile, Glover launched a court challenge against the election process. Premier Calvin Gertsen was the guest speaker. Prior to the vote announcement, he added some history and then humor to what was a rather somber day. He said the PC party is about to make history. It is not easy to organize a leadership campaign, and I want to thank them. Thank you to both candidates and their teams. The democratic process doesn't happen by default. It happens because people put in a lot of hard work. Gertsen talked about the historical contribution of past conservative premiers. It was Duff Roblin who built the Red River Floodway. Sterling Lyon helped bring home the Constitution. Gary Filmon brought more control over immigration policy. The provincial nominee program brought in 150,000 people to Manitoba. Brian Pallister balanced the books and reduced the PST. Then Gertsen added his usual dose of humor, stating, "While I have been premier about 2 months, the Bombers have not lost a game, and I want it to stay that way under our new premier." He noted that after that day, it will no longer be Mr. Premier, but now Madam Premier, and I am especially glad it is as a progressive conservative premier. It falls to us to be quick to listen and slow to speak, and it begins with speaking with Indigenous leadership. Success for our province cannot happen unless we engage with Indigenous people. PCs are committed to working with all people and all other levels of government. Gertsen said, 2 months ago, I was humbled to be asked to be Premier. I will be a footnote in history, but it will always be a highlight for me. Now, in the travel and entertainment section, this is entitled An Unusual Year for Westman Youth Choir by Kira Patterson. Westman Youth Choir, or WMYC, decided to make it work this year, changing up the format a bit so that they could give students a chance to sing while complying with COVID-19 regulations. The choir annually opens up to auditions from high school students in the Westman area, meets up for several weekends in the fall to rehearse, and then takes the choir on a concert tour through the province. This year, however, things were quite a bit different. Graham Chapman, who does publicity for WMYC, noted that the first difference was there were no auditions this year. We reached out to students in the summer and they seemed very interested, he said. The 2020 WMYC had been cancelled, so most of the students they invited were ones who had applied to take part in last year's. Normally the choir is open to students from grades 10 to 12, but because they wanted to include the students who had applied last year, they had some participants who graduated in 2020. A few students they invited opted out, and because they required participants to be vaccinated, some could not come. So Chapman said to bolster their numbers, they invited a few alumni and a couple new students. In total, about 30 singers were involved in the choir, which Chapman said was a little smaller than, but pretty close to normal. Rehearsals were also done differently this year. The first difference was that all the rehearsals took place outdoors. Director Michelle Chiswick met with the group over 3 weekends in September. However, instead of the normal full weekends of rehearsal, they only met for 1 day each time. Because of this, they had a much shorter set list, which consisted of 5 songs. While they were learning the songs, they also figured out how to do video recordings, Chapman added. Because an extended tour was not on the agenda this year, the choir recorded their performances so the public will be able to view them on YouTube. Chapman noted that all the songs they performed this year were centered around the theme of coping with hard times, to coincide with people dealing with the pandemic. One of the songs that really stood out to me was about all being in the same lake, but in different boats. I thought that was a great analogy, Chapman shared. To wrap up the experience, WMYC put on 1 live in-person concert by invitation only. Each choir member was allowed to invite 4 people to attend the concert on October the 16th, which took place at the Central United Church in Brandon. 3 Neepawa Area Collegiate NACI students and 2 2020 NACI graduates were part of this year's WMYC. Kendall McCracken, this is her here, is in grade 12. Grace Ferguson, who is also in grade 12, and Emma Gale, who's in grade 11, as well as graduates Claire Tomanico and Ryan Jaron Toison, represented NACI in the choir. Arts Forward Christmas Sale is back by Kira Patterson. An upcoming event in Neepawa will help you get a head start on your holiday shopping. Arts Forward is putting together the Glorious Christmas Wish Sale set for November the 27th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Yellowhead Hall. The annual craft and gift sale was cancelled last year due to COVID-19, but with the restrictions as of now, the event can go on with very little disruption. Masks will need to be worn inside the hall and proof of vaccination is required to get in. But other than that, things will be pretty much back to normal. Any facility that has a liquor permit, it doesn't matter what event is going on there, everyone has to be double vaccinated, noted Arts Forward Coordinator Yvonne Sisley. And with everyone vaccinated, we can have full capacity. The sale will feature approximately 50 vendors selling everything from home decor to jewelry to ceramics and all kinds of gifts. In addition, there will be a silent auction, and Cat's TNR will be selling concessions. It'll be very typical of what the sale has been in the past, said Cicely. While the glorious Christmas wish sale is taking place, there will also be activities going on at Arts Forward. Nicole Cooper, Director of Recreation for the town of Neepawa, is organizing some holiday happenings there. From 9 a.m. till noon, there will be professional pictures with Santa. Cooper noted that she's currently working on getting the other activities finalized. Cicely added that they're very happy to be able to get back to a form of normal with these holiday events. It's just great to have everyone back, she said. Out of Helen's Kitchen by Helen Drysdale. This week it is called Rutabaga Enthusiast. I am a rutabaga enthusiast. People seem to either love or hate this vegetable. I am in the love camp. Rutabagas and turnips are both members of the cabbage family, Brassicaceae. The rutabaga story goes that in 1620, the Swiss botanist Gaspard Bohn crossed a cabbage with a turnip and produced a rutabaga. Rutabagas are slightly sweeter and larger than turnips with a yellowy purpley exterior versus the white and purple / white exterior of a turnip. When cooked, the rutabagas will become a gold color while turnips remain white. What most of us buy in the store labeled turnips are actually rutabagas. The turnip was an important food crop for the Romans as well. It was the vegetable of choice to hurl at unpopular public figures. When the Romans invaded England, they brought turnip seed with them. There they caught on as they thrived in a cooler, damp climate, required a short growing season, and kept well for long periods of time. In the 15th century, turnip eater was the common term for a country bumpkin. The Red River settlers brought along turnip seeds for their gardens, and it was one of the crops to grow and keep well for them. When we visited Scotland, mashed turnips, known as neeps, were served with the haggis. The Irish carved turnips for their jack-o'-lanterns on All Hallows Eve to ward off the evil spirits that roamed on that evening. Rutabaga is the major ingredient in the most loved Finnish Christmas dish, I don't know how to say that, lantalatico, in their cuisine. Our German student was horrified we ate turnips, as in her country they were associated with cattle and pig food. During World War I, a food shortage had forced the German people to rely heavily on turnips for food. In France, turnips were known as poor man's food, and in Charles Dickens' novels, if you called someone a turnip, you meant that they were a perfect idiot. Both turnips and rutabagas, also known as swedes, are great for mashing or adding to soups, stews, and casseroles. They both can be used interchangeably in recipes. For a change, I like them thinly sliced with a sprinkle of salt. Store the turnips loosely wrapped in a plastic bag in the crisper of the fridge or loose in a cold room. Even if you are not a rutabaga fan, do try this delicious recipe, and I am sure it will change your mind about them. It's called Rutabaga Carrot Casserole. All right, Rolling River School Division. Custodial staff go on strike. Custodians and cleaners at Rolling River School Division began a legal strike on Monday, November the 1st, taking place at the Minnedosa Collegiate and the Rolling River School Division Board Office. A total of 21 staff members were part of the strike. QP 1630 President Kevin J. stated in a press release from the union, "We have done everything to try to prevent a strike, but the Rolling River School Division has left us little choice. The union is asking for the same 4-year deal that many teachers across Manitoba received, with wage increases of 1.6%, 1.4%, 0.5%, and a cost of living adjustment over the 4 years. All we are asking for is the same respect that teachers and other support staff in Manitoba have already received, Jay said. The Banner and Press has not been made aware of whether a deal has been struck before deadline of publication. Next is the Spruce Plains RCMP report by Corporal Jacobsen. During the week of October 25th to the 31st, Spruce Plains RCMP dealt with 49 police activities. On October 25th, RCMP responded to a report of threats being uttered towards a business in the RM of Minto O'Donnell. The complainant declined to proceed with further police action. Police received a report of a vehicle being taken without the owner's consent in Bethany, which was later determined to be unfounded. On October 26, RCMP were dispatched to a commercial alarm in Neepawa that was later determined to be false. Police received a report of mischief to a vehicle in Rapid City. The vehicle had holes drilled into the gas tank and fuel was stolen. The matter is still under investigation. Police responded to a report of a stolen quad in the municipality of Westlake Gladstone, and the investigation is ongoing. On October 27th, RCMP responded to a report of online fraud that occurred in the RM of Rosedale, where the victim lost a substantial amount of money. The matter is still under investigation. Police received a report of theft of cattle in the municipality of Westlake Gladstone, and the investigation is ongoing. Police were dispatched to a report of donkeys being loose on the highway in the RM of Minto O'Donnell. Patrols were made, but the donkeys were not located. Stay tuned for next week's Animals at Large. On October 28th, RCMP received a report of a suspected impaired driver in Rapid City. The vehicle was parked at a residence. There was insufficient evidence to proceed further. Police responded to reports of a disturbance in Minnedosa and threats being uttered in Neepawa, but both matters were determined to be unfounded. On October 29th, RCMP responded to a disturbance at a motel in Neepawa. People were able to de-escalate the situation and resolve the matter without incident. Police were dispatched to a 911 hang-up in Neepawa. Police attended the residence and determined that it was a misdial. Police received a report of a hit and run to a vehicle in Minnedosa, but there was insufficient evidence to proceed further. On October 30th, RCMP received a report of stolen vehicle keys in Neepawa, which were returned to the owner before police attended. Police received a report of threats being uttered in Minnedosa. Police attended and spoke with the suspect, who was verbally warned. Police were dispatched to a commercial alarm in the RM of Rosedale, which was later determined to be false. On October 31st, Halloween Day, RCMP responded to a report of suspicious people at a business in Neepawa. Police attended and spoke with the people in question and determined there was no cause for suspicion or had any concerns. Police conducted various proactive traffic enforcement and engaged with several motorists, and the RCMP conducted 4 traffic enforcement actions during this reporting period. Rural Outlook page. Curling is part of the backbone of Carberry, by Owen Devereaux. For many small town residents across rural Manitoba, an evening out watching curling at the local rink is a cornerstone to the overall community experience. For Carberry, they will soon get to experience that slice of small town charm, but on a much larger and more competitive scale. Anticipation is starting to ramp up for the Scotty's Tournament of Hearts. The event, which features the top female curling teams from across the province, will be played at the Carberry Plains Community Centre from December the 14th to the 19th. Planning Committee Board member Devin Speece told the Banner and Press that hosting the Scotties is massive and very exciting for Carberry. He said having an event of this magnitude come to our town is thrilling, not only for the committee and the individuals involved with the event, but the town as a whole. There is a buzz around the community in relation to the event, and we can't wait to have the curlers as well as all the fans from across the province visit our town. Curling has been part of the backbone of our town for many, many years now. With competitive teams and many strong curlers coming out for our curling club each year and playing in larger events across the province and nation, it just goes to show how rooted the game is here. Carberry was one of 7 original members of the Manitoba Curling Association, dating all the way back to 1888. Getting the opportunity to host this prestigious event means a lot to the club and community. For Carberry to properly host an event of this scale, a lot of work must be done in preparation. In the weeks ahead, both the curling club, ice, and hockey arena will be altered to the largest extents to accommodate. The hockey ice will be removed December the 7th to begin the transformation process. The curling sheets will be created by Greg Owasco, a well-regarded ice maker throughout the curling world, with the help of members of the Carberry Club. There will also be media platforms built inside the arenas so crews can capture the action from all angles. In relation to the current curling club ice, it will be removed to create the patch, which will be a socializing location during the tournament. As for the volunteer aspect for this event, Speece noted that the committee has been very impressed with the response they have received thus far. We currently have many of the positions filled, but there is still room for a few more individuals in different areas. We can be contacted through Facebook as well as by email at curlcarberryvolunteer@gmail.com. That's curlcarberryvolunteer@gmail.com. Curl Carberry and the Manitoba Scotties Tournament of Hearts will be following all the health guidelines during the competition. All individuals attending will be required to show proof of vaccination upon entry to the facility and will be required to wear a mask while inside the Carberry Plains Community Centre. Week passes are $200, while day passes will be sold for $50 and will be going on sale as of December the 1st. Ticket information can be found at curl-carberry.square.site. All right. Now we're going to talk about the Community Foundation, and this is called What Are Endowment Funds by Kira Patterson. Community foundations are a unique way to support local causes because they allow donors' gifts to continue giving in perpetuity through endowment funds. An endowment fund is like an investment fund for a community. All donations to the fund get invested, and interest earned is what's used to give out grants. The initial donations never get used up, but the more donations go into the fund, the more interest that gets made and the larger the grants that can come from it. There are several types of endowment funds, and while some may be used for specific purposes, most community foundations have a fund that may get used in different ways every year. This type of endowment fund is called a community fund, and any general or non-specified donations made to the foundation go into this fund. Each year, foundations will accept applications from area organizations requesting grant money for different projects, and they use the community fund to fulfill many of these requests. A donor-advised fund is exactly what the name implies, an endowment fund which the donor has specified who or what will be the beneficiary. These funds can be set up to always go to the same recipient or can be decided upon each year depending on who the donor believes would benefit most from a grant. If a donor has a specific area of interest, they can also specify what field of interest they want the money to go towards and allow the community foundation to decide who or what within that field will receive the grant. Designated funds have similarities with donor advised, but there are some differences. With designated funds, the grants go to the same recipient each year. Often, designated funds are set up in honor of someone or from the estate of an individual who has passed away. Many organizations also set up designated funds. Most designated funds are open to donations from the public, so anyone wishing to donate to a specific cause can do so through a designated fund if one is already set up for that cause. Scholarship funds are also a type of designated fund, but are specifically for students graduating high school. Scholarship funds may be specified for students from a specific geographic location, students going into a specific field of secondary education, a student who had high academic achievements, or one who was involved in specific extracurricular activities such as sports or volunteering. With so many different types of endowment funds, there is almost certainly a fund to suit any donor. Whether you just want to contribute to the community in general or have a soft spot for a certain nonprofit, there's an endowment fund for that. To find out more about endowment funds in general, or what funds your community foundation has, visit the Endow Manitoba website at endowmb.org. That's endowmb.org. And there's just a picture here, a couple of spotlights from the foundation. The Beautiful Plains Community Foundation covers the communities of the town of Neepawa, RM of Rosedale, RM of Glenella Lansdowne, and the Langford portion of the RM of North Cypress Langford. It has been in the community, serving the community 26 years, and the approximate total distributed so far is $2.6 million. And there's a picture here of Justin Smith, Keith Jacobsen, Roger Kaharski, and Penny Walker accepting Touchwood Park's designated funds check for $1,330 from the Beautiful Plains Community Foundation. And here we have Brad Walker of the foundation presenting Kinsman Courts 2 with a grant of $12,575, and accepting were Perry Snedden, Dana Menzies, Grant Lucan, and Tom Borsa. Now we have an article here about wondering what happened to the Neepawa founded charity for Porphyria by Casper Werhan. It all started in 1975. That was when Lois Aitken of Neepawa was diagnosed with hereditary coproporphyria, or HCP, one variant of those found in the porphyria disorders group. This rare and incurable disorder is caused by a buildup of natural chemicals that produce porphyrin in the human body. At that time, medical textbooks only contained a single small paragraph on porphyria, and Aitken's diagnosing doctor, Dr. Brent Schachter in Winnipeg, told her she was the third person diagnosed with HCP to be recorded in the world's medical records. In 1976, Dr. Schachter put Aitken in touch with the American Porphyria Foundation, then known as the American Triad Foundation, where she would become a Canadian volunteer coordinator for 10 years, and the wheels set in motion for the founding of a Canadian association. In 1987, Aitken began planning a porphyria organizational meeting under the encouragement of Desiree Lyon at the American Foundation and Dr. R. Galbraith, a porphyria researcher from New York. That meeting took place on January 15, 1988, in Neepawa, with 23 people from the Yukon, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba attending. A unanimous vote was cast, and the Canadian Porphyria Foundation, later named the Canadian Association for Porphyria, or CAP, in 2008 was formed. From there, CAP received its status as a National Registered Charity on September 20th, 1988, and its first annual general meeting on January 15th, 1989. Unfortunately, due to a lack of funding, CAP had to make the decision to close its doors in December 2011, but it turned out that would not be the end. As the Neepawa Porphyria office was closing its doors, there was a group of remarkable volunteers in Edmonton, Alberta, working hard to take over CAP, said Aitken via a letter sent to the Banner and Press recently. Canada Revenue Agency suggested we not immediately close our doors so that the Alberta group would have the chance to take over. This would enable the Alberta group to take all the records and educational materials that the amazing and successful Neepawa volunteers had developed over 23 years. Aitken added, sometimes a door has to close in order for another to open. Aitken also shared the story of a woman from the Neepawa community who benefited from the support and educational services the Canadian Association for Porphyria had to offer. Named Sarah in the retelling to protect her identity, she dealt with many symptoms starting at the age of 11. These symptoms included extreme abdominal pain, muscle pain, and weakness, and periodical paralysis of her limbs. Doctors tested her for many things, but all results came back normal. It wasn't until she was 21 years old that she was diagnosed with acute intermittent porphyria. One day I came to the realization that directly across the street from me lived a couple whose nephew had variegate porphyria. 4 houses to the west of me, the couple's twin nieces had erythropoietic protoporphyria, said Aitken. 1 block to the east of me, one of Sarah's relatives had acute intermittent porphyria, as Sarah did, and I was diagnosed with hereditary coproporphyria. For a rare disorder to this day, I find this mind-boggling. Getting a porphyria diagnosis can be hard, with many medical professionals having little to no knowledge of the disorder, said CAP. That is why they continue to do the work the Neepawa-based association started before it closed its doors 10 years ago. CAP is organizing workshops for people with porphyria and their families, providing information and resources for each type of porphyria and an opportunity to connect with others, offering supports for children with erythropoietic protoporphyria to attend a summer camp where their need to limit sun exposure is accommodated, advocating for increased variety and availability of treatments, and sharing information on new research and treatments. Porphyria impacts not just the patient, but the people who care about them. When one person has porphyria, it affects the lives of everyone around them, said CAP via media release. Caregiving is often an invisible and emotionally exhausting role. Experiences of guilt, frustration, and grief are common, but can be hard to acknowledge. CAP's support for people with porphyria also goes beyond supports for families. To help people receive a diagnosis and appropriate timely care, CAP seeks to boost awareness among medical professionals. To improve awareness and address the challenges porphyria patients face with assessing care, CAP is working on developing the Canadian Porphyria Physician Network, CPPN, utilizing an advocacy for impact grant from Alnylam Pharmaceuticals. Part of this CPPN's efforts includes providing opportunities for medical professionals to connect, share their expertise, and learn from each other, and to increase awareness through outreach and communication activities. As the need for this organization increases, the need for ongoing support from the community also increases, said CAP. Our future depends upon the generous support of the volunteer directors, medical personnel from across Canada, our industry partners, and of our many members and friends. To learn more about the Canadian Porphyria Physician Network or get involved, readers are asked to get in touch via the email coordinator at Canadian Association for Porphyria.ca. More information along with access to resources can also be found on the CAP website. Next, we have a big article about the local food bank program by Casper Warehan. The Neepawa Community Ministry Center, NCMC, has run a food bank for many years, but what some may not know is that the NCMC, as part of their efforts, also reclaims food. While the food bank primarily receives non-perishable items, the food reclamation efforts help bring in fresh products for those with food insecurities in the community. Amanda Nightingale, director for NCMC, explained that people will donate food such as garden produce and that there is a partnership between the NCMC and different local grocers to make fresher foods available to food bank clients. Stores like Safeway or Giant Tiger will phone us and say, "Hey Amanda, we have some stuff that's close to date or just past date that's still good. Do you want to come and grab it?" So we go over and grab it. Depending on what it is, we either freeze it and have it available for our food bank clients, said Nightingale. Safeway is changing a little because their parent company, Sobeys, has partnered with Second Harvest. Second Harvest is a food reclamation company, a non-profit organization, and their mission is to trying to deter food waste in Canada. Nightingale added, Second Harvest has a lot of great opportunities for people to learn about those things on their website, but they also partner with manufacturers, producers, and grocers who see if we can get food to help solve insecurities, so we can get it to people who really need it. Safeway's partnership with Second Harvest means that soon the grocer will be using the Food Rescue app to list what they've got, and Nightingale will receive a notification. She can then choose whether to accept or decline the food depending on if the NCMC has space for it. While some grocers only partner with other agencies, others are open to all recipients, meaning that other individuals can use the app to reclaim food and pay with a credit card. For the NCMC, the reclaimed food comes free of charge and is then donated out by them to those who need it. The more that we can get fresh items into the hands of those who have food insecurities, the better. It's really difficult. We've all seen our grocery bills rise, and a lot of these are fresh items. Some canned foods have definitely risen in price, but are typically still a cheaper option than fresh vegetables or milk. So we've been trying to incorporate more perishable products, more fresh vegetables and fruits into our hampers as much as we can. But we don't have the funds in order to do that, and that's where reclamation comes into play. Like Second Harvest, the NCMC also aims to reduce food waste in Canada through their food reclamation efforts, in addition to providing fresh foods to food bank clients. Nightingale noted that Canada is one of the highest food wasters in the world. A lot of this, she explained, is due to overproduction and the misunderstanding of best before and expiry dates. It's really important for people to understand the difference between best before and expiry dates. Best before really has nothing to do with the safety of the food, and really, even expiry dates don't have to do with the safety of the food. There's only about 5 products that are actually mandated to have expiry dates. These are items like baby formula, protein mixes and bars, meal replacements like Ensure, and prescription meals. These types of items, if you were to ingest them over a long period of time, and that's what your reliance on nutrition is from, if they were past their expiry date, the value of the nutrition goes down. So you may get sick because you're not getting a nutritionally balanced product. She added, there's a difference between that and food safety. Food safety is meat or produce that is bad, and it's really determined by the smell, how it's been kept, how long it's been packaged, all of those types of things. We can reclaim meat, dairy, and all of those things because a lot of the time, the best before date is a suggestion of the shelf life when the product is at its best. A lot of the time, it is still okay and safe after the best before date. You just have to ensure that how you are keeping and storing it is in a safe manner. The NCMC now receives a lot of produce and fresh products that are being reclaimed by Harvest Manitoba. Harvest Manitoba provides monthly deliveries of food products, many of which have been short dated and others that can have their life extended. For example, Nightingale noted, yogurt can sometimes be good for weeks after the best before date. And while you can't remove mold spores from yogurt and continue eating it, it can be done with cheese, so long as the individual cuts an inch past the spores. There's all sorts of things that we as consumers really need to look into and see where we waste within our own fridges and cupboards, because the manufacturers are putting that date on there just because they're not mandated to outside of those few products. Typically, it's stuff that has a shelf life of 90 days from the packaging time. Like a can of beans is going to have a longer shelf life than a package of crackers, for example. But it's more about the freshness as opposed to the safety. Crackers may be a bit stale or less fresh tasting, but they're still safe to consume. And it goes on to say, if the NCMC has extra products, they ensure that their clients have access to those products first, and then puts it out to the general public through the thrift store. Nightingale explained that not everyone in the community who shops at the thrift store financially needs it, but may appreciate the extra shopping options to save money. As well, not everyone who is food insecure goes to the food bank, so it provides another potentially more anonymous way to access food. Those who are in need of assessing the food bank can do so on a monthly basis by giving Nightingale a call at the thrift store and going through the intake process. This process provides the NCMC with information as to what the individual situation is, what's going on, why things are happening, and why the food bank needs to be assessed. This is done judgment-free and is solely to start a relationship with the client, so the NCMC can start helping in other ways. We can refer people to different programs within the community, find ways to save money within a budget, or give suggestions about what's going on. That referral to other resources can definitely help, apart from the food that we give. The food bank, although it has changed a bit due to COVID-19, has a shopping style motto. This means that there's a list of things people can select from for their food hampers. What this format does is it allows the NCMC to create food hampers tailored to the family, instead of families receiving general hampers with foods they may not eat or may not be able to eat. We find that by doing a selection-based type of food bank, people can get what they need and want, which helps in all sorts of ways, said Nightingale. Now, we have an article about someone that lived here locally that has become an actor and a singer, by Casper Werhan. He's an actor by day and a musician by night. Jeremy Walmsley, son of Don and Michelle Walmsley of Neepawa, has been involved in acting for about 15 or 16 years, 10 years professionally. Now living and working in Toronto, Walmsley got his start in high school doing musicals. However, he really caught the acting bug by spending time with his family. While they didn't have TV, Walmsley and his family watched a plethora of movies, which he says got him addicted to storytelling through film. He said, "My dad, luckily enough, was an actor and director as well in the Neepawa community and did amateur adult productions. I got to see people on stage talking, saying things, telling stories, and making people laugh," said Walmsley. So it was a bit of having that in the family and having my grandfather as a director as well and watching movies. That's how I got roped into it. Walmsley added, "I was the kind of kid who always kept busy. I was in every single thing I could possibly think of. I was in drama, mostly every sport, just threw myself into any kind of department. I think the biggest thing that I really took from my youth was when I told my father I wanted to be an actor. He just said, 'I don't care what you do. You could be a ditch digger, but you just be the best damn ditch digger you could possibly be.'" So what I took from that is, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it with such vigor and focus. After high school, Walmsley sought post-secondary education through the Academy of Acting for Film and Television, a college program that at present no longer exists. This is where Walmsley says the world really molded together. Being a passionate singer, in addition to being an actor, he was able to take lessons from some of the best actors and singers at a young age and study further on his own time. To this day, Walmsley still continues his studies. Right now, I study with a guy named David Rottenberg, who is an acting teacher at the Pro Actors Lab in Toronto, and really, truly, I owe a lot of my skills to him and the people I've worked with, Walmsley expressed. Some of the productions that helped start Walmsley's professional career were shows held at the Manitoba Theatre Centre. One such production was Once, the musical. For this production, he had to learn how to play about 7 different instruments and play many different characters. He said it really beefed up my playing skills. It was a wonderful challenge to have to play instruments while singing, acting, and telling a story. That really stuck with me theatrically, said Walmsley. What really sticks with me are challenging roles that I can dive into. Another role that fits that criteria is Walmsley's acting as an anti-hero character in the upcoming film titled First Person Shooter, which was filmed this year and is expected to be released in 2022. That character was really interesting, complex, and quite dark in some moments, so I love the challenge of that. It really pushed me, acting-wise, as to what I can do. Walmsley has filmed in 3 additional movies this year, including Harland Manor, a horror movie filmed in Manitoba that went live on the Tubi streaming service last Friday. When Hope Calls, which will be on the GAC network this December, and another Christmas movie that will be released next year. Some TV series he can be found in include Nurses, Murdoch Mysteries, and the Frankie Drake Mysteries. Walmsley has been rather busy in the recording studio as a solo artist too. Over the last couple of years, he has been working on singles and has released 4 of them, the most recent of which is Unwind You, At the moment, he's working on 3 more songs to be included in an EP. He says it never stops. When I'm not acting, I'm busy writing music and collaborating with other producers or producing myself. During the time of COVID-19 and isolation, I taught myself how to produce and be an engineer as well, just to be productive and stay creative. Walmsley enthused. Right after I shot When Hope Calls, I just went straight into something. It's the hustle. When I'm done something, I'm not waiting around for something else. I'm like, what do I need to do? Walmsley added, the music side of me is very much me and my heart. It's who I am. The acting side, I play people for a living. I play pretend. So it's very grounding and it centers me. It's truly who I am. I'm not putting on a facade or a character. But then my day job is putting on a character, which I love. So it's 2 loves that I get to do, and I'm very fortunate to do both of them. In his final thoughts, Walmsley wished to extend thanks to the Neepawa community, his teachers such as Blair Chapman and the Roxy Theatre for helping him develop his skills and more. When we get home from work, we want to unwind, watch Netflix, and people can take that for granted. So I think it's really important for small towns to have arts programs. Even the small amount that we had when I was playing instruments in band, choir, drama, and all those things, I took all those pieces and made a living off of it. So thank you to the small town and all the teachers that helped encourage me, and I hope they continue to do that for the younger kids. So here we have a picture of Jeremy right here. He's an actor and singer originating from Neepawa. During his career, Walmsley has been in a variety of productions, from musicals to horror movies, such as the recently filmed and debuted Harland Manor, which is pictured here. And here we have some pictures of Halloween that took place in Neepawa. Area residents go all out for Halloween. Don and Brenda Chrischuk of Neepawa went all out for Halloween, turning their whole yard into the high seas infested with haunted pirates. This year's display included pirate ships, skeleton crews, the Kraken, and more, all put together by the Chrischuks themselves. Excellent. Here we have Bernadette Jerome dressed up to scare and stopped by the Banner and Press office on October 29th to deliver some treats. And despite their best efforts, Neepawa Co-op food store employees Keith Babcock and Rostik Polniak could not scare the customers away from Co-op's fried chicken. Okay, now for the sports section. Big win for NACI football when it matters, by Owen Devereux. The NACI Tigers recently got a measure of revenge off of the Interlake Thunder, defeating them 36-20 in the Rural Manitoba Football League, RMFL. After being shut out last week by the Thunder 30-0, the Tigers responded on Friday, October 29th with an impressive effort on both sides of the ball. In the first half, both teams started things off, trading multiple touchdowns, with NACI primarily dominating with an air attack while Interlake controlled the ground game. For the second half of the game, however, the Tigers' defense was able to successfully lock down the Thunder's running efforts. NACI head coach Shidi Small said a few halftime adjustments to their gameplay made a big difference. We saw that they were making progress in the first half, with runs up the middle. We decided to shift our linesmen inside a little bit tighter, with our linebackers containing outside. That was the main change, and it forced them to have to shift their runs to the edge, where we were able to stop any big runs from happening. They still had a little success with runs from the quarterback, but it wasn't nearly what was happening earlier in the game. The coaching staff was really happy with how the guys adjusted and held them back as the game progressed, stated Small. Small also indicated that the week of practice after losing to Interlake previously was a big factor. He said revising the game film was helpful and exposed a few things that they'd be able to take advantage of in the game. With this win over Interlake, the NACI Tigers closed out the RMFL regular season with a 4-2 record, good enough for second place in the Prairie Land Division. The Tigers will advance to the Doug Steeves Championship bracket, which features the top 4 ranked teams in the league. NACI will next face the Swan Valley Tigers, who are 6-0-0, while the Southwest Sabres are 5-1, will meet the Dauphin Clippers, 3-2. Coach Small stated that while Swan Valley is the toughest possible matchup they could have encountered in the playoffs, the players are very much looking forward to facing the challenge. The semifinal game between NACI and Swan Valley will take place in Swan River on Saturday, November the 6th. And here we have Neepawa Tigers winning the hockey home opener. After about 19 months away from the ice, the Neepawa Area Collegiate Institute, NACI Tigers, are back and playing games that matter in the Westman High School League. The team hosted its regular season home opener on Wednesday, October the 27th, with a game against the Deloraine Hartney Colts at the Yellowhead Arena. As if just returning to play wasn't enough already for NACI's players, coaches, and fans to be happy about, the Tigers capped off the night with a 4-3 victory. Though the score was close, the tempo of the game itself was very one-sided over the first 40 minutes of play. In the first and second periods, NACI outshot Deloraine Hartney by a 46-10 margin. But despite throwing everything they had at Colts goaltender Ethan Williams, the Tigers only had a 2-0 lead going into the final 20 minutes of regulation. Both those goals were from a 4-minute power play opportunity for Neepawa in the first period. Riley Davey and Ethan Lizotte each scored on the extended extra man advantage. Ethan Williams, in his impressive impersonation of a brick wall in net for the Colts, provided his teammates the chance to find their stride in the third period. Teammates Ashton Kura and Lucas Mattis both scored, with Mattis collecting 2 in the period. Fortunately, the Tigers were able to tally a pair of their own, with Jory Kilbacki and Lennon Carr scoring for the home side. The shots on goal for the third period were a little more even at 16-12 for NACI. The combined totals for the whole game were 62 shots for the Tigers and 22 for the Colts. This victory was the second of the regular season for Neepawa as the team opened up the year on October 24th, winning 6-2 in Brandon to the Crocus Plainsmen. Ethan Lizotte had a pair of goals on the night, while Callan Dembo, Jory Kulbaki, Ward Brister, and Tarek Lapointe all added singles on the stat line. It was another lopsided night in terms of shots on goal, as NACI outshot Crocus 60-18. Whew. All right, long-awaited renewal of a rivalry. By the look of their on-ice performance, you wouldn't have thought it had been 604 days since the Neepawa Farmers had played a game of significance in the Tiger Hills Hockey League, THHL. As for the Carberry Plainsmen, the wait for them has been even longer, and unfortunately looked at it for some portions of the game. A mix of returning veterans and some fresh new names were plastered across the stat sheet for Neepawa on Saturday, October the 30th, as they defeated Carberry 5-2. Both teams started out on the night with a dynamic pace, looking to make up for lost time. Neepawa's Kyle McDonald got things going with the goal just 4 minutes 20 seconds in the first, with Dalen Creasy and Garrett Rempel assisting on the play. Just barely a minute later, a line of former Neepawa natives added to the Farmers' lead. Benoit Mowbray scored on the power play, while Braden Gillies and Corbin Mariage collected assists. Scott Murray replied for Carberry quickly with an unassisted marker, but Garrett Rempel returned the Farmers to a 2-goal cushion before the end of the period. The Farmers outshot the Plainsmen 15-3 in the first 20 minutes of play. For the second period, the score remained 3-1, with 12 shots on goal for Neepawa and just 4 for Carberry. As for the last 20 minutes of regulation, Rempel scored his second of the night on an early power play chance. Brett Lewandowski and Dylan Creasy assisted on the play. Jackson Stevens answered back for the Plainsmen just 21 seconds later to make it 4-2. Lance Nugent would close out the night with 1 for the Farmers, with Mowbray and Brad Marshall aiding on the play. Penalty-wise, it was a relatively clean game in the first 40 minutes of play, but in the third period, both sides remembered they didn't like each other at all, as things got a little more chippy. Fortunately, things didn't get too out of control. The final shots on goal were listed as 36-12 for Neepawa. Carberry, 0-2-0, who has made its return to the THHL after a 4-year hiatus from the league, next plays on Friday, November 5th against McGregor. Neepawa, meanwhile, will play in Gladstone on Saturday, November the 6th. Tiger Hills Hockey League recap. Okay, actually, just going to see. The Tiger Hills Hockey League began on Friday, October 29th, when 4 games took place. 5 games were originally scheduled, but the contest between the Deloraine Royals and the Hartney Blues was postponed. This was the second time already that the Royals had a game postponed. The postponed games will be made up on a later date. The 4 games that were able to be played saw Souris host Verdun, Cartwright travel to McGregor, Wawanesa in Carberry, and Gladstone at Pilot Mound. Souris had first period goals from Joel Schultz, Brett Arbuckle, and Troy Cleaver as they jumped out to an early 3-0 lead after 1 period of play. Verdun would answer back with 1 in the second from Drake Bodie, but in the third, Souris would put the game away just 1 minute and 55 seconds in, when Terry Duell scored the 4th Elks goal, which proved to be the game winner. Souris wins this one 5-3. Cartwright went to McGregor, but it was not a good night for the visitors. McGregor was led by Kelly Rintoul's hat trick as the Wild scored early and often en route to an 8-1 win. Josh Tripp had 4 points for Wawanesa as they got past Carberry 7-2. Only Sean Kubis of Gladstone had more points on night 1. Kubis had 7 points as the Lakers defeated the Pilots 10-6. There were 3 games on Saturday, October 30th. Wawanesa was looking to stay hot when they played host to Minnedosa. The Boys of Aim Border Kings renewed hostilities in Killarney against the Shamrocks. In the other game of the evening, Neepawa defeated Carberry 5-2. Wawanesa and Minnedosa traded first period goals, but after that, the Jets were grounded, and the Bombers erupted with 4 goals to skate away with a 5-1 victory. Minnedosa is 1-0 on the season, while Wawanesa falls to 1-1. The Boys of Ain Border Kings faced off against the Killarney Shamrocks in Killarney. The 2 teams were scoreless after 1 period of play. Then in the second period, Brett Opperman opened the scoring for the Shamrocks, and the home side led by a goal after 2 periods. In the third period, the Border Kings would tie the game up with a Devin LeBlanc power play goal, and this one needed overtime. In the extra session, David Robertson, the former Estevan Bruin, put home the overtime winner to make the final Boys of Ain 2, Killarney 1. An exciting first weekend of Tiger Hills Hockey League action is in the books. Gameplay resumes on November 5th when the Border Kings head to Hartney. Carberry is in McGregor and Killarney hosts Souris. Stay up to date with everything in the Tiger Hills Hockey League on TL/media. All right, so we are almost out of time, so I'm just going to read one last article about the Rotary book sale. The Rotary book sale in Neepawa has once again proven to be an effective fundraiser. The sale, which took place from October 20th to the 23rd, brought in about $3,350 from the sale of the donated gently used books. Murray Newton, one of the Rotarians who organized the annual sale, noted that the club was very happy with the turnout this year. We had a pretty good sale and we have lots of books left over for next year. The money raised from the sale goes to help support Rotary's many projects within the community and the donations they give out to local organizations. He added that at the book sale this year, they were also collecting donations for Rotary International's Global Polio Eradication Initiative. Newton reiterated that the book sale was quite the success this year, saying that it's a great event for the community, especially those looking for a deal on some good books. All right, well, I think that's it for this week. Unfortunately, I couldn't finish the whole book this week because it was too thick. So hopefully you will join us next week at for reading of the Neepawa Banner and Press, and we'll see you then. Bye for now.